Welcome to EDC Journeys. This is the overview of the Cold Steel Gunsite Counterpoint 1. Hope you enjoy. If you do, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. What's going on, EDC people, and what is our journey today? We are going to talk about the Cold Steel Gunsite, sometimes referred to as the Gunsite Counterpoint 1. From what I understand, there's a family of knives that are referred to by Cold Steel as the Gunsites. They would, I believe, from what I understand, typically come in the normal kind of Cold Steel box that's black and blue usually. This one came in this box. There's some stats for you. Blade length 4 inches, overall length 9 inches, so 5-inch handle. The steel is AUS 10A. They say it's 4.7 ounces. We'll check all that. Stock thickness 3.5 millimeters up here. And the blade handle 5 inches of Gravex. And I'll show you it all. But I just wanted to show you the box. It's kind of got a cool eagle or whatever. Triad lock. Yeah, you can pause at any time if you want to see this. Anyways, as I was saying, they decided, I'm not sure, I believe this is from all the research I've done on this knife. This is the last knife that Cold Steel is going to make under Lynn Thompson as the president or the CEO or whatever he is, whatever the position is. And here's the knife. So much like the other Gunsites, it is a Gravex handle with 3 holes, except for this one is OD green instead of black. You can kind of flip it out. I've seen some people do it, but it's so new and stiff, and it's got that triad lock that I don't trust myself to flip it out at all. So there it is, in all of its glory. It is definitely Cold Steel looking. Let's check those measurements real quick, even though I'm sure they're correct, because this is not the first time I tried recording this. Let's see here. So 9 inches overall, check. 4-inch blade, check. 5-inch handle, check. Let's see here. Let's check the weight. So yeah, it's that triad lock. It's one. This is one from LTK, one of the knives that he loaned to me. If you don't know who he is, you should look him up. I'd be shocked. Love them knives. In ounces, 4.8. I think they said 4.7 actually, so that wasn't too far off. And in grams, that's 137.21. Okay. Again, here's the knife. So for me, it's kind of a roller out. You can kind of wrist flick it, but it's definitely, especially being new, it's definitely what's the word I'm thinking of? Resistant. It's springy. It's still tight, and it snaps in there. Once it snaps in there, you can feel that triad lock, firmness. Okay, so let's take a look at the blade itself. We see AUS 10A, which is from Japan. The blade is made in the knife itself is made in Taiwan, but the steel AUS 10A is a Japanese steel, very very comparable to VG10. It's one of the steels that I do have quite a bit of experience with, coming from the cooking knives or chef knives perspective, because VG10, VG10 Max, VG1, all those kind of fall under the same category, and AUS 10A is basically the same thing. If you ask me what exactly the differences are, I couldn't tell you. You know what? And while we're on measurements, let's just get some comparisons done. Only a couple, because I don't have really much that compares to this. I don't have a, so this isn't something that I would have in my collection. I don't do the whole dagger thing, and I don't collect military looking necessarily knives, I guess. I'm also not a serration person, so if there was one that was with no serrations, which I believe the other Gunsites are straight razor, no no serrations, I would probably be more apt to look at it, but it's just not my style in general. And these knives aren't necessarily like it at all, but I'm using knives that people might have to get a reference to the size. So, a pair of 3, you can see the handle is definitely shorter. The blade obviously is shorter, but pivot to pivot, that's how the pair of 3 lines up. This is the only other cold steel I have. It's been modded by Outpost 76 to be a skinny mod, where that hump down here is gone. Really cool knife. Also AUS 10A, so it gives me a little bit more experience to talk about it. It's got the triad lock. Never fails. Now, this is much smoother and broken in, as opposed to this one, which is, I'm sure Lee keeps it in the box, sealed, ready to go for whenever he does whatever he does, because it is definitely got that brand new feeling. That poppy, sticky lock feeling. What else do I have to compare this to before I get off track? You guys do that to me a lot. Get me off track. I'm just kidding. Let's just do an Elementum, I guess. A lot of people have handled one or have one, so that should be a good reference. I'm using natural light, just so you know, so hopefully the colors come across the best they can. Oh, I've got to put some mineral oil on that micarta, don't I? Okay, so that's the measurements. Those are the comparisons. That's the blade type. Let's take a closer look at the blade. You clearly see it's a dagger. Those serrations are mean. Cold steel definitely knows how to make serrations. To top it off, they're single bevels. So on this side, you have blade here like normal, where it's got a double, bevel on both sides, and you would sharpen it, or it's sharp. On the serrations, it's a single beveled, so it's flat ground here. Does that make sense? It does make it easier to sharpen, because you can just put a little, one of those little things through it, and then you can also very easily just on a whetstone or whatever, even a ceramic rod, put it up the back, and then bring those serrations right back to sharp. And that's the great thing about AUS 10 steel, is that it is an easy steel to sharpen. 0813. So this is a special edition or a limited edition. They are all numbered. Lee's happens to be number 813. Thing is, I don't know where it goes to. I've heard 1,000, but I'm not sure. So it could be really cool, could be really limited, and collectible if you're a cold steel person or a fan of Lynn Thompson or whatever. But this particular model is a numbered model, but I don't know where it goes to. So it's either really close, and if you're looking to get one, you should get one soon, because if this is 813, there's not many to go until 1,000. Or maybe it's 2,000 or 5,000. I really have no idea. Now, being the dagger, it's only sharp on one side, so it's rounded over on the top. You can see I don't want to call it jimping. It's almost like scalloping or waving. From this side, it kind of looks like it almost looks like it parallels the serrations, but I think that it's more for when you're using those serrations to cut, right? To maybe even saw, or possibly to push, maybe even up here at the straight edge. Who knows? If I think that type of waviness, in addition to looking cool, in addition to kind of looking like it's serrated on both sides, and giving it kind of an aesthetic pop, I think it gives you more a platform for your thumb to push on or to saw with. Sorry, this is just a big knife to get under a camera, and so it is kind of awkward. As far as the handle is concerned, the grip, it's a Gravex. Kind of like, it reminds me the most of, like, I used to have an old, I don't know if I should say the name of the pistol, but a lot of police officers use them. They're very typical, but it's like that. It's got that, it's not FRN feeling, but it's plasticky, but it's like harder, and it's got a lot of texturing to it. It's definitely going nowhere in your hand. I mean, the grip I can get on this, really in any position, is quite amazing. It's got thumb stunts at both sides. I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but you can see that triad lock, that sound, that popping, that'll go away in time. It'll smooth out. This is just so brand new. That's obviously where it's ambidextrous. You can take your thumb clip and move it from this side to this side. One thing I'm not a huge fan of is they definitely optimized, and by the way, the blade is nice and straight, perfectly straight. They definitely optimized how much blade to handle. You can't get much more than that. Now, I can't get the tip at all, but the only thing that bugs me about it is when it's in pocket, you're going to have this much hanging out, which, okay, maybe that's what you need to grab onto, and maybe if you're the person who's catering this, you don't care that part's showing, because whatever. But I'm not a fan of the blade showing, and I know that would make a huge, design-wise, that would make this knife totally different. To change that, you would either have to really shorten the blade or find a new way to get it to make a deep carry, but that would fundamentally change the design of it, and so therefore I'm not sure if that's the smartest thing to do or not. But I'm not a knife designer. I just look at them and enjoy them. I know that in the reverse grip, it's very comfortable as well, going both ways. It's pretty rounded. I got this stupid cat hair floating around. Okay, in the reverse grip position, and maybe the best way to show you this would be to close the blade, just because I have to do this under the camera. Imagine it being open though, and I'm holding it in the reverse grip. The thumb platform right here, you can see it's kind of got an indent. It's designed to put your thumb there and drive down. You can pierce really hard. And given that purchase, given the grip you have on that Gravex, and the purchase you have on the handle alone, especially with your thumb up there, you can pile drive this. I mean, you could take a stack of cardboard this thick and go right through it, no problem. I didn't do it. Don't worry, Lee. I don't want to give you a heart attack. But I was watching several different things from Cold Steel on it, and they do all kinds of testing at their factory. In fact, they're known for it. They made the triad lock with Andrew Demko, and are proudly now have used that for a long time, and it is well known as the probably most powerful or most strongest strong lock. If I could figure out words this morning, that'd be good, huh? It's pretty widely acclaimed as the strongest locking mechanism there is. I think that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah, so if you're one of those people who typically stay away from knives because you sharpen or you don't know how to resharpen serrations, the good news is that, at least in my opinion, which can mean not much, these serrations are some of the easiest to resharpen. And then you just have this double bevel, typical straight, just like a normal knife. And that is the factory edge that you're looking at there. I believe, I'm assuming anyways. Unless Lee did something with it. Which he very well may have. I think he has a KME machine. Sharpener. Yeah, I'm just going over my notes. I wanted to take note that the stop pin, let me see if I can focus first of all. Oh, that looks good. It's got a decent sized stop pin. It is so new that you can see where it's wearing on the face of the lock is rubbing on that. That's why that's kind of black like that, or greased up. Because it's from the factory. And then once you can see the spring pop up, or the back lock pop up, and as it falls into place, it drops real hard. And it's got 3 forms of stop, hence it's called the triad. The location of the back lock, as opposed to back here or whatever, it's fine. I guess I have no preference. There's no way at all you're going to grip this and push that down. I can tell you that. You have to push it pretty far down. I guess I would rather it be in the middle than the back, because I think of like the Buck 110 where it's in the back, and it literally forces you to make it a 2-hand knife. I don't see how this would not be one, but maybe certain people can, or they have a way. I don't know. I wouldn't. Anything beyond that, I wouldn't do with 1 hand. I would use 2 hands on this knife. Yeah, let's take a good look at that. You can see that texturing really well. Let me zoom in more. Oh yeah, it's perfect. So you can see how when you grip this, especially when you grip it hard, all those dimples, and I believe they actually have a specific name, but all that dimpling in mountains and valleys and whatever in the Gravex is going into your skin. So it's, how do I say what I'm trying to say? So as you grip it, you've got all of those in all those different directions, kind of stabilizing it. I will say that that's one thing about this. That's just no doubt about it. It's one of the grippiest, most locked in knives I've felt in a long time, anyways. As far as it's kind of awkward to hold it with your thumb way up here, and it isn't the most comfortable. So I kind of presume that it's back here is the way to go. I do like on this style, and I think on most daggers it would be like this anyways, but it almost has like a bolster, and so your hand isn't going to slide up whatsoever, even with that grip. But maybe your thumb here, in like a saber grip, I think that's called, makes sense. I suppose if you're just slicing boxes or whatever it is that you're doing with this knife, even puncturing, it does have steel nested liners with you can see that the after the midway backstop, there's Gravex back spacing all the way around on this comfortable part where you put your thumb. Get real close to the thing here. And then on the inside, there's those steel liners that are nested into the Gravex. And if you look down close, maybe I can see if I turn the light on. Yeah, you can kind of see this how the stop pin interact. Well, maybe you can't see it. I don't know. It's hard to see on this camera, but you can certainly see the steel liners and how those holes give you some weight relief. The balance point is, well, pretty much right where it should be, I guess, yeah. Right at that finger cutout. So, what do you think about this knife? I mean, it's not one that I would go out and buy. It's not something that suits my fancy in that sense. But for people who this knife, who like this knife, here's my opinion on it. I personally would prefer straight blade versus serrations. That's just me. However, serrations have their place, and certainly these serrations, if I was going to have some, I would rather it be like that. And meaning that they're easier to sharpen, but I would use the knife less just because I don't really care for serrations too much. Anyways, that's ambidextrous, so yes, it would work fine left-handed. It is, as we know, a lockback, and with the thumb studs on both sides being equal, it kind of looks just like a screw, doesn't it? It would be completely ambidextrous. The same feeling for a right-handed person as a left-handed person. But as a right-handed person, looking at this is an eyesore to me, I guess. I'm not sure if that, again, the person who buys this may not care about that. This isn't maybe necessarily pocket jewelry. I guess I might be trying to relate this to something more fancy than I should be. I think this might be just more of a, military or police or an enthusiast or, one of those type of, a hunter or someone who collects those types of things or uses those types of things. I think that they would get far more enjoyment out of it. It is a nice looking knife, and it's kind of cool that it's numbered. I would be very interested to know what the number goes to, because that makes kind of a big difference. But regardless, it's cool that it's numbered, and it's cool because even if it goes to 2,000, you get the sense of, like, this knife is unique because they printed 0813 on this knife, and this is the only knife that's going to be 813, no matter how many they do. So it gives it a kind of a coolness factor. I can appreciate that. I don't like... It is starting to smooth out just in me opening and closing it. I better stop doing that. I don't like the blade showing over the pocket, personally. Lanyard hole, yeah, I think that this style knife deserves a lanyard hole, personally, yeah. I appreciate the thought in the design of that thumb spot there. It does flow very smoothly, I will say. Fit and finish is nice. There's not much to complain about there. It's very smooth. It covers up that nastiness there pretty well. So fit and finish is pretty decent on it. Yeah, I'm just taking a good look and giving you a good look. You can grab it by down here to open it too, no problem. It's not like there's a nail nick, but there's no reason why you couldn't. The only problem is, like all new knives, fingerprints everywhere. So I will have to wipe this down vigorously before I package it back up to go back to Lee. But the good news is that OS 10A does not corrode very easily, much like VG10. Hence why they use it in food knives quite a bit, or did, or at least used to when I was more into them. Anyways, a lot of people confused about why it's called the Gunsite. you know, if it really should be in that family or if this should be a standalone creature. I think that's why they made the name Counterpoint. Like I think that's where the confusion is, and I think the name is. I think that they printed Gunsite on this and made the knife, and then realized, well, wait a second, we already have a Gunsite family, and this doesn't really. It does go with it. I mean, it really does match it. I'm not sure. Maybe this is just Lynn Thompson topping off, finishing off the Gunsite family, and saying goodbye. I don't know if it's a last hurrah or not for him. You know, I mean, I'm not sure what input or position or what kind of work he'll do in the future with Cold Steel. I don't know if he's going to have any involvement. Cold Steel is, again, as far as I know, this is the last knife that they're going to put out under his leadership, and it's now been sold to a large group. So we'll see the future of Cold Steel, and this is the last of the Cold Steel that we knew, at least as we knew it so far. Maybe it'll get better, maybe it'll be worse. You know, action. It's not an action knife as far as, you know, like drop shutting, and it just isn't. It's a triad lockback, dagger design, thumb stud roll around deployment for the most part. Ergos are good. The choil's fine. It's hard, you know. It's hard because it's a one-sided bevel at the base there, so you got to be careful. But it looks nice and even. And then you come to the double bevel. I do like that dagger designs typically. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I saw a huge mistake, but I was backwards. I do appreciate that the apex of the dagger gives the tip just that much more strength, because you are going to, you know, theoretically pierce with it. So you have the strength of the stock thickness where it's thinned out. You know, typically the tip is the weakest point of a knife, right? That's what breaks off. But in a dagger, you do have that apex, right? Kind of like a road apexes, and the steel in the center will give that tip just a little bit more strength. At least that sounds right in my head. Should have done this at the beginning, but that's okay. We'll double check. I get 3.3 at this part. And 2.1 at the top of this. So, for whatever that's worth. At the choil, which barely matters because it's definitely a serrated choil, so it's 3.3, which is fine. It's kind of typical, but it makes very little difference, like I said, because you're not really going down and plunging into a sharpening choil. You're plunging into a serration. And in the way that they did that, it's just fine, because that last big serration will be, that's kind of where you'll start sharpening, is right there. And then the back is just one-sided on the serrations again. Let's see, while I have this out, let's switch over to inches. Zero me out. Inches. 0.65, so it's definitely wider, but it does have some rounding, you know. So speaking of contouring, it's a wider than a typical EDC, but given how, you know, the style of this knife and the size, the overall size being 9 inches, we can't forget that, by the way, I think it's okay. Well, regardless, uh, for the person who likes this style knife, I mean, I kind of feel like this is a polarizing knife, which is a kind of a typical thing from Cold Steel, anyways. Um, you're gonna either like this style and be interested in this knife, or you don't already. You know, I mean, I feel like it's one of those types. It's not just another G10 liner lock flipper. It's a different style. It's a dagger. It's got I think there's a certain name for those serrations, but it's partly serrated. It's got the triad lock. It's a numbered one. It's the last one under Lynn Thompson. It's not really some, people, you already either like this or you don't, I think, is how I feel. So that's all I can tell you about it. It is, being somebody trying to be as unbiased as possible. I feel like it would fit a bigger hand a little better than my hand, but my hand is a little bit small. Not to say that it's uncomfortable. It is comfortable, but I think a bigger hand would fill this better and be more comfortable on the grip. Yeah, that's what I think about it. That's the Cold Steel Gunsite Counterpoint 1, whatever you want to call it. This is serial number 0813. It belongs to Love Them Knives. He sent me a box of knives to take a look at. This is one of them. Thank you, Lee. Very much appreciated, as I keep saying on every video. It is because of his loan of these knives that I'm able to bring you this content. So I very much appreciate that. Here's the Cold Steel box, so you can take a peek at that while I talk. That said, if anyone else wants to, we should talk on Instagram or email. If you don't know my Instagram, it is at EDC_journeys. My email is edcjourneys@gmail.com. Very hard. I just wanted to plug my channel for a minute and offer up all I could for you on this final. How could this be the final Cold Steel? Well, hopefully it won't be, right? Hopefully whatever company bought it is not going to do the worst thing scenario. Okay, I'm going to end this on the Gunsite. Pretty cool. Thank you, Lee. Pretty cool box. Doesn't say anywhere on the box that it's a collectible one, that it's numbered. That's interesting. Anyways, look it up if you're interested. I don't know where it's available right now. Again, I don't have affiliations or anything. I will try to, if I remember, put some links down below where it might be available. I don't even know if it is available anymore, as a matter of fact. But there we go. I nearly forgot to mention, as far as Lee's knives are concerned, or LTK, I have, I think, 2 to 3. I think it's 2. No, 3. There is 3 more knives of his that I'm going through, and then it's on to the next find, I guess, or whatever. But I just wanted to let you know that I'm excited about the next couple knives. I got this one out of the way. The next one, I'm not going to tell you what it is because it kind of ruins it, but I've got two that you might be really interested in, and then one, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching my overview of the Cold Steel Gunsite Counterpoint 1. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks.